to my feet. Cause I had blessings that were right in my reach. I had to usher in his presence of peace. Almost forgot about the promises he promised he'd keep. He's a rewarder, so continue to seek a God of order.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Underground Railroad with Sam and Abraham, and we're here today with Reletta, and she's going to be giving us a testimony about just the drug world and how it's really affected her life. And so, Reletta, we really appreciate that you would take the time and talk about some things that have really impacted your life, and we'd love to hear your testimony of just when you started using and just the effects of it, and just how it's just really shaped and affected your life, and the people behind you, your mother and father, and then your children. So once again, we appreciate that you'd show up, but give us your testimony if you would.
Okay. Well, one of the questions you asked was when I started doing drugs, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint. I didn't start out with the habit just starting and then taking off from there. I remember I had gotten burnt really bad, pregnant with my second daughter, and I had to go to the ER, and they prescribed Lortab for me, and that was the first time I'd ever had Lortab. I took that for the pain, and I remember as soon as I was done taking the medication, as soon as I'd gone through all the pills, I remember actually saying to myself, I ought to get hurt again to get some more of that. But I didn't at the time. I just said that. And it was ironic because I'd also remembered I was watching TV, and there was like a 2020 or a Dateline thing that talked about Lortab and how addictive it was. And so I'd gone through nursing school, and I once I started actually working as a nurse, I discovered this way of being able to get this Lortab now, because what would happen was either a person would pass on, or the medication would get discontinued, and it would just sit in a locked box until the pharmacist came in once a month to destroy it. And you could just, it was just up for grabs. Here it is. It's like something, and it was, now that I think about it, it was it was totally out of character for me, but to because at the same time I was getting it, I somehow in my mind justified this as being okay. But here I was, not only was I doing drugs, but I was stealing it, And like I said, that was totally out of character for me. And just to backtrack just a second, from the time that I got burned to the time that I started working around this, it had to be something like maybe 4 or 5 years. So like I said, I started then, and then to backtrack a little bit more, the only other drug use I'd seen in my family was people, a lot of family members smoke weed, and then a few family members had, they were on crack. And it's funny because um now Lortab is not Lortab is just was just the beginning of my drug use. It got harder as time went on. And it's funny how people think one thing, oh, I just do this, and this is better than doing, I'm better than you because I don't do that. I don't do that one. And that's harder than it can all lead for me, it kind of all led, one led to another and then to another and then to another. I can remember one weekend going through like over 100 pills. And um but I can also remember being able to I um I being able to stop when I wanted to stop and say, okay, I can put this aside and I have to handle business. And because it got to the point where I was calling into work a lot and bills weren't getting paid, and I was just, in a stupor a lot of the time. And I I would say things that just didn't make sense. Like I said, I justified it in a lot of different ways because um, I remember hurting my ankle really bad where I tore the tendons and ligaments in it. And so um, for my ankle pain, I was taking pills. It didn't always have to do with me being in pain. I was depressed a lot. Um, I felt alone a lot, and they just took me to another place where I didn't have to feel what I was feeling. I still have a struggle with depression, and it's 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 as time goes on, it's not always about the same thing.
So when it comes to like, um, you kind of explained to us kind of how you end up begin with the Lord tab and how it affected you, and it seemed to got help you escape reality that you was living at that particular point in time, especially when it came with depression. And so, what led you from that point to? Did you venture out to any other type of drugs? Was that just a stint of it? What was your turning point when it comes to all this? Like, right, like what made
Well,
you turn around?
um, what led me to other type of drugs was the type of people I was coming into contact with. There were other kinds of drugs that were that started to become available. Like I remember I was introduced to a quicker way of consuming it, which was by shooting up. And I justified it by saying, well, this is prescription drugs. You know, this is not the stuff that's out there on the street. This is prescription drugs. And so I started to shoot up. I went from Lortab. So just basically, long story short, I went from Lortab fives to Lortab tens to Percocet fives to Percocet tens to oxycodone to oxycontin, Dilaudid, and to a form of morphine called Roxanol. I was so very careful about how I got the drugs, not to get caught at work and um, and lose my job over it. But when I wasn't able to get it, um, somebody suggested to me, somebody suggested to me, well, heroin is a form of morphine too. And that I justified heroin as being a form of morphine, and morphine being a prescription drug, and started doing heroin. And it got to the point where I I was trying I was doing it daily, but I was trying to hide it. I started to get kind of paranoid, thinking they could see through me. They could see me, they knew I was high. And um that kind of scared me at times. Um, but I did that, but not enough to stop. And then when I couldn't get the heroin, um, I think the heroin went on for so long. And when I couldn't get the heroin, someone suggested, well, try meth. And then I got hooked on, it actually got me off the heroin, but I got hooked on the meth. I was doing anything. It got to the point where I had to do anything to keep from, number one, to keep from being in pain, because when I was on the morphine and on the heroin, um, if I didn't have it, my body was going into withdrawal. And that was that um it 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 I wanted to quit. There was times I wanted to quit and just couldn't handle it. And so I kept on. I tried to use the needle, and my veins were just shot out at one point. They were just, I I'd spend hours or more trying to find a vein that would hit and that I could use. And um I just be sticking myself all over. And I just said, I just said, I just one day I said, enough. This is enough. I don't want to do this no more. And um, I had to go back. I had never, I'd been raised up in the church. And so I knew how to pray. I had a relationship with God, and I never stopped praying. But I, 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 I wasn't turning to Him for my problems. I was turning to that drug for my problems.
So the people who've been listening, man, we really appreciate you guys listening to our stories, and we're really hoping that you guys get to really question God, that these stories might reconsider your stance on the goodness of God. And in the next podcast, man, we hope to share more stories of evil and good, but of triumph in the end. And we really hope that you listen in. And so please join us on this next time on the Underground Railroad, where we talk to more people and get their stories of God's goodness. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I would say too, if you got any questions, you want to hit us up, we more than willing to answer them. We want to be really interactive, man, because we want you to know that God is real and He does love. Peace out.